Hello and welcome everybody. We're just internally trying to figure out our quorum woes. All right, Caleb for the save. Thank you, Caleb. Yeah, please, Caleb, stay on. We need you. All right, thanks for everybody for joining. This is the Water Quality Management Committee for March, what are we, 24th, 5th at 9:02 a.m. Is there anybody fairly new on the call, or can we forego introductions?
I think we can. I just want to say hi to Tommy in the back. Tommy is not really our new Jared. We've had Tommy for a while. It's just Tommy is filling in for this role for Jared moving forward. So just hi, Tommy.
Welcome, Tommy. Is that your official middle name? Okay. Well, it is a fine last name. Okay, so we've established a quorum. Can I get an approval for the agenda items for today?
I move that we approve the agenda.
First.
I'll second.
Thank you, Wally. Second. Now I'm looking for an approval of the minutes from our February 25th meeting that I was not in attendance, but somehow became chair.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Wally with the first.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to public comments. I believe we have a grant discussion or announcement.
Hi, my name is Karen Rowe. I'm the Regional Grant Navigator. Excuse me, I'm just looking at my emails because I have this summarized. So I'm a Regional Grant Navigator for PPACG. If you utilize me to help you with any of the grants, my time is free. So you can reach out again. It's krowe at ppacg.org. And if you need any more information, Angie has it, but I wanted to let you know about 3 or kind of 4 grant opportunities. So their Water Smart grants are back. So these went away with the Trump administration, but they came back recently. And the 2 I think would be most likely for any of these any of you to apply for are the drought response program and the small water efficiency projects. There is also applied science grants, which is more about data collection. And then there's the large scale water recycling projects. Those are projects over 500 million. So these, and one thing I want to mention about Water Smart, all these have a 50% match. However, the state still has a local match assistance. So if your community can't afford the 50% match, then you can apply to the state and ask them if they can match that federal match for you. It's at no cost to you. If the state wants more federal funds, so they will tell you whether you qualify for that or not. But examples of that is Green Mountain Falls is approved for $1 million right now if they win a grant to replace their bridge. Also, Park County did win a federal grant for planning in Bailey, and they are getting $300,000 of local match, and they have a $1.2 million grant. So if you think these grants might be a good idea, but you don't have that 50% match, you can apply for that local match assistance. It's under DOLA. And they're working to get that extended through 2029. So these Water Smart grants, they say go quickly. The small water efficiency project grant is water conservation projects that might include canal lining and piping, municipal metering, irrigation flow measurement, SCADA, which is supervisory control data acquisition automation, landscape irrigation measures. So water savings by reducing outdoor water usage, such as removing turf, installation of drought tolerant landscaping, installing smart irrigation controllers, or installing high efficiency nozzles, for example. Now this one for the small scale water, it's a total cost of the project up to 250,000, and the maximum grant match could be 125,000. And that needs to be completed within 2 years of award, but not start until the grant is signed. There are a whole list of projects that are not eligible that are in the NOFO that I won't go over. The other program that might be of interest is called the Drought Response Plan. That's the award ceiling of 1.5 million. The minimum is 25,000. These are projects designed to improve drought resilience by developing effective water management strategies and drought contingency plans. That's one example. Funding under this could be water source diversification, infrastructure improvements to increase water storage, like water tanks and distribution capabilities, decision-making tools for water management and planning. But there are a lot more projects that would qualify, and then they have a list on their NOFO of things that would not qualify. These are all due in June or July. I don't have the exact, oh, here they are. So the small water efficiency closes June 2nd. The drought response program, the one I just mentioned, is July 28th. And again, if you don't have anyone to write these grants, you can apply to the state. They have consultants that will write these grants for you. And you don't need to contract with them. The state will do it for you. And again, it's for all these federal grants. These are under the IIJA legislation. So there's one other called USDA Rural Development. It's Emergency Community Water Assistant Grant. It's for communities under 10,000 people. And the areas must have a household income less than the state's median household income for non-metropolitan areas. So again, if you're interested in that, I can set up a meeting with Sally Clark to discuss that one. But it's out now also, and I can get you more information.
Great. Thank you, Karen. Any other public comments or presentations anybody would like to share? If we have time and it's okay, I'd like to bring maybe a current event up. Talk a little bit about the Potomac River sewage spill. I know I heard about it, but I didn't really get into the weeds on it. So I looked a little bit up today. So I just thought I'd share some facts with y'all. So on January 19th, a 72-inch Potomac Interceptor pipeline collapsed approximately 5 miles upstream of Washington, D.C. It allowed an estimated 300 million gallons of untreated wastewater to spill into the Potomac River. It's one of the largest in U.S. history. It was constructed in 1962. It's a reinforced concrete pipeline, and it originates in the suburbs of Virginia and Maryland. It transports wastewater all the way down to the Blue Plains wastewater treatment plant in Washington, D.C. To emergency plan was put in place where a 2,700-foot bypass was constructed around the damaged pipeline. Environmental impacts included E. coli levels hundreds of times higher than the EPA's safe levels for E. coli. However, all active Maryland drinking water intakes were upstream and unaffected, which is good. And fortunately, a smaller downstream intake of the spill had been taken offline prior to it, so no drinking water intakes were affected. They did, however, have to close downstream shellfish harvesting, and health advisories were issued recommending avoiding recreation activity in the river, which is probably pretty good. As of mid-March 2026, the emergency repairs were complete. The bypass system is operational, and most water quality indicators show safe conditions. However, localized contamination persists in tributaries and near the spillway. The long-term ecological impacts are still being assessed. DC Water plans to finish permanent repairs by the fall of 2026, and ongoing monitoring and remediation efforts continue to restore the river and surrounding areas. So I think it just goes to show with aging infrastructure, how especially the size, 300 million gallons, it's, almost a year's worth of our effluents, within 5 days. So, just goes to show the importance of, getting those grants and making those improvements. I think it's just aged, it's a reinforced concrete pipe. But from my resources, I couldn't find a specific. It's kind of like that with whenever there's a water main leak, like in the city or something, and they get it on the news, they're like, still looking into the cause of the leak. It happens, unfortunately. So, but now it appears that they have at least a bypass in place for that section that's been replaced. So, but anyway, I just thought that'd be interesting to bring up some current events related to the work that we do.
Mr. Chair,
It looks like Caleb Patterson has his hand raised.
Caleb, please.
Yeah, hi there for having me. A little update here for Green Mountain Falls. The town was approved to get a feasibility study for Green Mountain Falls for wastewater management. We also got approved for an additional $85,000 post the engineering, feasibility study for engineering for wastewater treatment system. So just a little update for us. Things are moving. We're very excited.
Good work. Excellent. Yes, Karen.
And Caleb, what was that through? Was that through the water technical assistance or was that something else?
Yeah, that was through search. We get approved 85,000 through the search grant, no match. So thank you to the state for giving us that. And there was also an additional 85 for the post engineering. That was through I think it's USDA EPIC. I could be wrong. It could be EPA EPIC. I apologize. One of the two.
Okay, great. Good to hear, Caleb. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Chair.
Yes, sir. Please.
Caleb, Commissioner Wysong, do we have the date set yet for April 14th or 16th for the press release?
Well, we have a date, so the 14th is definitely looking like what we're gonna be doing for the date. We don't have a time yet, so if you would like, I kind of will leave it in you and Mr. Dixon's hand to set a time. But if you guys want me to do that, I can take that initiative.
Okay, I'll reach out to him. Thank you, Caleb.
Thank you, Mr. Wysong.
Great. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll move on to the discussion items. We have the 208 plan update process. Angie, you have the floor.
All right, so I just wanted to give everyone an update on how our 208 plan process is looking and what's coming, just so you're prepared. So the first thing is a survey will be coming your way. Tommy, there's nothing to show for this one, so yeah. So there's a survey coming out. I'm currently working with our contractor to develop that survey. It's going out to everyone across Park, Teller, and El Paso counties. I put together sort of a distribution list. Everyone here is obviously on it, and also reaching out even more broadly to nonprofits that do work in the area, Trout Unlimited, things like that. So if you guys have, if you want to see that distribution list, I'm happy to share it. If you have suggestions for who else to put on there, happy to take those. But we're just trying to do really broadly to get everyone's concerns about watershed issues. And the surveys really tries to capture everything. Obviously, we don't want to make it so long that you're spending 2 hours filling out the survey. So if there's something you wanted to say in the survey and there wasn't a place to put it, feel free to reach out to me, and all that will be captured in our 208 plan update moving forward. But I'm asking all of you to please complete that survey. There will also be an option for you to forward the survey to someone else if you think they may be interested. But we really want broad input there. So that should be coming out within probably next week, if not the following, but if you could just take some time to fill that out. I don't think it would take more than 30 minutes, and that's a generous estimate. So that will be coming. You'll probably see that coming from our consultant. So just a heads up on that. And then the consultant will also be reaching out to all of you on the Water Quality Committee to update your facility information. So we talked about this maybe in November or something like that. So the 208 plan currently has, a couple paragraphs about all of your facilities, and that needs to be updated. So we'll be sending, I think the plan is to send you sort of an editable Word document. And you'll make sort of red line edits to that and send it back to us, or send it back to the consultant. Hoping to have give you about a month's time for that turnover. Once we send it to you, hopefully you can get it done within a month. So that's coming from the consultant. Again, reach out to me if you have any questions. And with that facility update, we're hoping that you can provide sort of the 208 plan is supposed to have a 20-year horizon. So if you're able to provide that 20-year outlook on sort of what's coming, whether that's, service area changes or capacity changes or whatever you might sort of predict is on the horizon for your facility. If you could include that information, there'll be some guiding questions in there too to help you. You don't have to remember everything I'm telling you, but some guiding questions on how to update that facility information. So that should be coming out also within the next 2 weeks, ideally. And then the third thing that you'll see coming out from our consultant that we're going to be updating and is your capacity and permit information. We did some work last year to update those numbers. I had reached out to everybody to try to update that. So some people had not responded, and so our consultant is just going to ask everybody again. I know a lot of you already gave me the information, and they may not have to ask you, but if they can't verify that that's been updated, then, and they should be able to, then they may ask you again. So just an apology. Some of you already gave me that information, and they might ask you again. It's just information from your permit. So all of those three things are important for us to have to put into our 208 plan update. So within the next 2 weeks, you'll see that coming out. And if you could respond to the survey and take some time to update that, we'd really appreciate it. If you have any issues or you need assistance or have questions, I'm here. So you know where to find me. So that's all I have. Any questions on that?
So I'm just curious on, once this thing is finalized, so again, sounds like Woodman Hills doesn't have a defined boundary that changes quite a bit. How quickly or how often do we update this thing? Or do you need updates and information to keep it current?
So, technically we only update the 208 plan ideally every 5 years. But we do have capacity to update your service area maps occasionally throughout every year because we get some money from CDPHE to do these sort of minimal updates. But those require us to go through the whole Water Quality Control Commission process to make those sort of final and approved. So to the extent that you can in your facility update information, if you can just talk about what those service area changes might look like, even if it's we don't know, we think it could go over here or over here, that's helpful too, because if we can't capture it in the map, we can at least capture it in the text, and that's helpful for us to stay up to date. That answer? Okay.
Thank you, Angie. Next on the agenda is action items with Angie.
All right, so I had mentioned you guys all gave me your service area boundaries, and I appreciate all your cooperation on that. It was super helpful. So Tommy, if you could bring up the Park County map, what I'm going to show you is the edits that we've made with our GIS team. This is a 3-county map. Okay, that's fine. El Paso County. So these are also in your materials. Basically, what we're looking for is approval of how your entities are represented. So we're supposed to show the service area boundaries. So who the service provider is and not necessarily all the individual districts. So that's what we tried to do. So for example, Colorado Springs Utilities has all these other sort of minor areas underneath them. So we just showed it as Colorado Springs Utilities. Cherokee Metro has, you know, those other representations underneath of them. So, I don't know if you guys have previously looked at these or you want to look at them now to verify. I'm just looking for, if you're happy with it, are we good to go forward to approve these maps to go into the 208 plan? And we can, so we have individual counties, for El Paso, Teller, and Park counties. I know nobody's here from Park or Teller County, so we'll send it out to them. And then we have a 3-county overview, which is the same information. So I'm not sure if you guys would like to look at these outside of here or now. It's up to you.
Angie, I just wanted to point out that securities label should just be security sanitation district.
Thanks for that. Roger actually sent me an email and said, so I appreciate you pointing that out and we'll make that change.
I think the maps look good to the best of my knowledge of the wastewater plants in El Paso County. I don't know much about the other two though.
Okay. Yeah, and just asking for, you don't have to know everybody else's, just if you could verify your own. Good point.
Yeah, from security sanitation district's perspective, I believe our boundaries look good.
Utilities looks pretty good to me. I guess I'd just like to make sure it's clear in the text that you know those areas that are not in our service area that we provide wastewater service for, that's just kind of spelled out, that it's not part of our service territory. And I can provide language as far as like, you know, if it's an extraterritorial service agreement. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, can you send me what exactly you're looking for there? Because I don't know the ins and outs.
Yeah, I'll say it. Hopefully it'll just be a sentence or two, but I'll send you something.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Woodman Hills boundaries look good.
Our boundaries are accurate.
Okay, well, that's everybody here. So we'll make sure that we're confirming with everyone else who sent me their service areas who's not here. But if you guys are good to move this forward, it would just need a vote of approval from you.
Looks like we are looking for a vote to approve the service area maps as presented with the edits.
I motion that we approve the maps subject to the edits from the city of Colorado Springs.
Second.
Thank you. Right. Next on the list, site application review process edits.
All right, so that is this Appendix A that we've been talking about. So hopefully, so I only received comments from 2 people who had some minor edits, and those have been in. And then Roger just emailed me yesterday, and because he's not here, I figure we could go through his comments, which there are 7 of them, and ideally get, if you guys are okay with it, get approval to move this item forward. So the 2 minor comments I had were changing paragraph, one of the paragraphs, to just clarify that our PPACG Board of Directors is not approving and disapproving, they're just providing recommendations of approval. And we'd already talked about that, but there was another catch for one of those. And then also, when it talks about the SARC and all the committees, we mentioned bring someone to the meeting to present, and that was suggested to bring a representative to the meeting, which makes sense. The other one is, so Roger had brought up the point of that we changed the title to the actual title of the Reg 22, which is pretty long. It's something like, it's on page, can you go to the page one, the top of page one there? Yeah, right there. Regulation 22, site location and design regulations for domestic wastewater treatment works. So what I did instead, and this is totally up to you guys, and I'll tell you why I did it this way. So we're calling this our site application review process. And I put this first sentence in there to say, our site application review process describes BPACG's process for reviewing the applications under Reg 22. And I did this because we do not have authority on Regulation 22. We are not the enforcer of Regulation 22, and our review process is distinct from CDPHE's process. So my thought here was that we need to keep it distinct from Reg 22 and just say our review process reviews those applications. So when we refer to site application review process, that's what we're talking about, instead of changing the name, because we want to be clear that Reg 22 is CDPHE and this is ours. So I put that sentence in there instead of changing the name of this to the Reg 22 name. So this is up to you guys. Roger has suggested that we change it to the Reg 22 name throughout the entire document. And this is my suggestion. So this is really up to you guys.
It's my opinion that I concur with you, Angie, but I think we keep it separated.
A head nod from Kevin.
Not from Wally.
True. True. Okay, well, that's three of us.
Sure. I have a question. Page 3 of 14, where it talks about WQMA and the SARC. That last sentence, right above 27.1. At their discretion, the WQMA may choose to send the application directly to the WQMC without first being reviewed by the SARC. Is that the correct verbiage there? It was confusing to me. So I was just curious.
I can tell you where that came from, but go on.
And then the second is, would it help to have an actual flow diagram attached for the whole process? Because you've got municipalities or unincorporated county, and that's kind of the first decision, and then it goes through a bunch of different steps, different departments. It just kind of reviewing it for the first time and not really being in this line of work. It was just with that flow chart, just really help clear it up. It's the verbiage has to take priority over the flow chart, but it just could be one of those things that just helps guide everyone through it. Picture's worth 1,000 words type of thing.
Yeah, I can respond to those. So the first one, the WQMA may choose to send the application directly to the WQMC without first being reviewed by the SARC. That came up in a discussion when we talked about this in whenever it was, November or October or whatever, because we were talking about the redundancy of how many times an applicant has to go to all these meetings with basically the same people, and we were just trying to simplify the process for the applicant. So that was suggested to be put in there, but it's totally up to you guys if you agree, if you still agree with that.
Yeah, I think also part of that was to, there was discussion of dissolving the SARC, and I think it was important to a lot of folks that we do not do that. So the SARC will stay intact, but what this will do can help streamline a lot of these, which are, some of them are just lift station upgrades, things of that nature. They're not like having a huge impact on the community. They're not a brand new treatment facility or things of that nature. And so it just seemed redundant to have them meet with a lot of the same people at these different organizations. So we decided to keep the SARC intact because we felt like the technical aspect of that committee was important, but at the same time, to streamline the process for depending on what site application it is, that we could just forego that step and go straight to the WQLC.
Thank you.
And then for your comment on the flow chart, that was also suggested, but I didn't understand that that was like a huge desire. So we can certainly add that in. It was kind of just a minor comment, and I didn't know for sure if you guys want to go that route, but it sounds like yes. I can build that up if there's agreement.
I think it's not a bad idea because someone new coming into this might look at all these spaghetti acronyms on here and you could easily confuse a WQMC for the WQCC. So I think a flow diagram kind of helps clarify that a little bit better.
Yeah, I would agree with Wally that especially if you're new to the process, a lot of these are engineering firms that are kind of part, not necessarily they're contracted by the utility, and that it would be like, okay, you've surpassed this first step. Here are, in a quick glance, your next steps that you're going to have to go through.
Okay, I'll add that in. With that, do you guys want to move? Well, I guess I'll ask that at the end, so I'll hold off just in terms of process. So I'll keep moving through. Oh, go ahead.
I just have one question, Brandon, primarily about your description of the process, and should it be up to the WQMA to decide where the application goes? Or should that be up to like the chair or somebody within the committee? Is it, me, it's not really up to that water quality management agency where it should go. It should be within this. So, perhaps the chair could direct the application either to SARC or directly to the committee.
So would that entity or that person need to be part of the first round of review, and then that person's responsibility, that chair of that committee would be responsible for communicating with the SARC and the WQMC to set the groundwork for skipping the SARC step?
Well, I guess the way I see it is once the agency has sent it to the committee, then you will have the application or whoever, whether it's, I don't know.
That's why I think it needs to start with like the lower fountain water quality management associations. The chair for that committee should have the responsibility to review what the actual application is and whether or not it could warrant that, and then initiate that discussion with the chair of the SARC, the chair of the WQMC to determine that next step.
It just seems to me that it's more under this group's purview.
I would agree with that.
Agency. So yeah, maybe some discussion. But ultimately, however that process works, it should be, I think, on the chair directly.
Right.
So whatever the process is in the meantime, be determined.
So I can add a sentence that says something along the lines of, if the WQMA wants to move it forward without the SARC, they'll need to coordinate with the chair of the SARC to verify that it can go that way. I mean, better wording than that, but yes. Is that what you're going for?
I think the agency just moves it along to this committee. It's up to this committee internally to decide whether it goes to the SARC or not.
But I believe in the process, and if we had the line diagram, I would believe the SARC is in between Lower Fountain and us. So I think it would have to be somebody early in the process to initiate that skip.
Well, the SARC is a committee of this. It really has nothing to do with the agency.
Right. So maybe we keep the process as is, but the chair of the SARC has the authority to skip that and move it on to the WQMC.
That's kind of what I'm.
Are you looking for a meeting with the SARC to have that skip that process, or just like a sort of email coordination?
I think it's the chair's discretion, and
Okay.
So I would suggest that based off of the Lower Fountain's approval or recommendation or request them to continue on the process, it would automatically get sent to the SARC, but then the chair at that point would review it and have the ability to not meet and just move it straight to the WQMC. Sense?
Yeah, and I can add a sentence that tries to capture that.
So in the end, it keeps the SARC in the loop, but we could streamline the process for the applicant if need be.
And then when you say it's a discretion, whoever's in charge of that Lower Fountain, it's still the people in there will vote on. So it's not just the chair making that decision by themselves. We vote on the day. This is a really simple thing. We don't see the need to get SARC involved, and they can move on.
Correct. And then it would still follow the line diagram. It would move, that the email with the application would be sent to the SARC members. And then at that point, the chair of the SARC would have email discussion on whether or not we actually need to meet and have the present, or if we can just skip to the WQMC.
so the chair of the SARC in their email, they're not taking a position on it because they really haven't studied it enough, to take a position. They're not making a recommendation. They're just saying, yeah, we don't need to meet twice about this.
Yeah, so no recommendations or anything like that. Just, yeah, we'll move it on. Okay. All right. Good there? Okay. All right, moving through Roger's comments, he did point out the security sanitation district, so that's noted. I'll make that change throughout and as well in the maps. Second paragraph on page 2. Oh, regarding the okay, talking about the review by the city or the town. That's just right now it only says something if it's located outside the city or town, then a signature is not required. But Reg 22 says if it's within a 3-mile radius of the city or town. So I added that language to clarify what Reg 22 actually says. But I also added a sentence because, again, we're not the authority on Reg 22, that the applicant should refer to Reg 22 for specifics. And we also don't want to be held responsible for updating this if Reg 22 gets updated, or just, again, rewriting Reg 22 and making sure it's always in sync. So Okay, this version may not actually show because Roger just sent this to me yesterday. So it's not in this one, but, so just anyway, thoughts on that edit? And is it too much? Do we need to take it out? That doesn't actually say it there, but it says something along the lines of if the site location is located within the boundaries of the city, or sorry, let me get the sentence right. Basically, it would include review of the city or town if the application for a site within an unincorporated area of the county is 3 miles or less in proximity to the limits of the city or town. So adding that in, but also limiting us from having to rewrite everything that's in Reg 22. Does that make sense?
So you would just be adding the actual distance. I think that's fine. It's more information, the better. And at some point we may need to lean on whether or not it's in that or outside of that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm okay with it.
And again, CDPHE has authority on that anyway. It's not actually part of our review process. It's just really, I guess it was there to help the applicant. Okay.
Hi, this is Connie King. I have another comment on that paragraph.
Mhm.
When I read it, I thought it was very confusing because it says if the site application is located within a jurisdictional boundary, and it's not the site application, it's the location of the proposed facility. And I looked through the document you had sent, and on page 6 of 14, you do use the term location of the proposed facility
Okay.
appropriately. So the 2 times in that paragraph on page 2 where site application is used, that should be replaced with location of the proposed facility.
Great point out. I actually noticed that yesterday, so thanks for that.
Good.
Okay, I'll make that change. Okay. Talked about that one. Okay, then on the last sentence on page 3, under 27.1, talking about the lower fountain water quality. There you go. All right, so this came up because we were talking about the Lower Fountain Water Quality Management Association doesn't actually have a map showing what their area is for, like, I need to know if your application is within this area, then it goes to the WQMA. So I talked to Jonathan about this, and he didn't have a service area, we'll call it service area for Lower Fountain. So he suggested, and it has been suggested by others in the past as well on this committee, that all applications within the Fountain Creek watershed get reviewed by the Lower Fountain. So this is for discussion. We need to decide what the service area is for Lower Fountain, for which site applications go to their review. Right now, it's not defined. It's just kind of, it's near there, and that needs to be defined.
Can it be as simple as anything south of Monument and north of the Arkansas confluence?
If I can distinctly tell where that is on a map.
Say south of Monument, talking town of Monument.
Town of Monument in terms of discharging into Fountain Creek. Does Fountain Creek have reaches? or sections that we can reference?
Well, Mountain Creek doesn't extend Monument Creek does.
Oh, right.
So I would say, no, no, I don't know what I.
Or like a road boundary? You do a road boundary?
Because if there's a site application for a discharge into Monument Creek, that'd be part of the Lower Fountain watershed.
How about just say all of El Paso County?
If I may, this committee's been around for quite a while. Has there ever been a defined boundary of its jurisdiction? Or do you just choose what projects to review?
I did ask Jonathan that. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I think it's, loosely, it's just been Fountain Creek drainage, but there used to be I don't know, at least the Upper Monument Creek Management Agency. And I don't know if that's defunct,
Yes.
so I don't know. Yeah, but I guess I also don't know if that organization or or a management agency could be revived for Monument Creek.
I had that conversation with those entities as well. Parker is on the call. Jim and they are not interested in continuing that. Mid-Monument, as Roger mentioned, was apparently run by Colorado Springs Utilities, and no one has said that they're in operation either, and no one has expressed interest in continuing that role.
Historically, the Lower Fountain hasn't reviewed anything in Monument Creek, as far as I can recall. But it has covered, I think, most of Fountain Creek, all the way up.
So, and this might be too basic of a question, but what's the purpose of Lower Fountain? Is it to protect the water quality in Fountain Creek, which would then mean that you should review Fountain Creek and all tributaries? Or is it just to have some kind of control over the overlapping utilities around Lower Fountain Creek? In that case, it would make sense to do it south of the confluence.
I don't know if I have a good answer to that. Lower Fountain used to have a great Christmas party too, but that was the other function, but that was easier to define, but, isn't it required, as part of the 208 to have a management agency? Or, I mean, I thought that was its role anyway, was to provide that function.
We don't require WQMAs, but if they exist, then they're established through some authority under CDPHE, and they do have a say over anything that impacts water quality in whatever their area is. But I also asked CDPHE, and they don't know what their boundary is either. So they suggested that we define it in our 208 plan. So we don't require them to exist, but if they want to, then we support them in the 208.
So maybe in some ways make it easier, look at the actual watershed boundary, Fallen Creek, and anything that falls in that, you could somehow dialogue, define that would fall under it. And I would think anything outside of that would skip the Lower Fountain, just go to the Sark. You got a couple entities, we don't fall into that boundary.
So I think if I'm understanding you, we are suggesting the Fountain Creek watershed, which is, I'm not sure if you can pull it up, how quickly you can pull it up, Tommy, but on that El Paso County map,
Watershed also extends into Teller County.
Yeah. You know, it's that whole purple. That's the Fountain Creek watershed. But there's different levels of watersheds, and maybe there's a lower level HUC that we could use to define it.
If you want to stick to the title of Lower Fountain, then probably downstream of the confluence makes sense, between the confluence and the county line. But as we've articulated, the purpose of the committee is not exactly clear.
Would it be up to the Lower Fountain Management Committee to decide their boundaries?
Yes, and this committee and whoever falls within whatever area they're proposing.
Because Wally and I were just speaking before the meeting, and we're supposed to have a Lower Fountain Water Quality Management meeting tomorrow, but we have not heard if that's happening, but that would definitely be a reason to meet and discuss. Maybe we can table this until next and hopefully have some more defined information the next review QMC.
Yeah, if you guys want to define what that is and bring that forward to this group, that'd be good.
Okay.
Good call. Oh, go ahead, Mark. Sorry.
I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I turned my mic on, so
We hear you.
and I don't think it's a thing that we don't want to have the Upper Monument Water Quality Association. It's just I think everybody or pretty much proposed up here that everybody was landlocked and there would be no more reviews required up here. But if anybody that's followed the news in the recent few months, there's a good possibility that we will have a lift station to review, or somebody's got to review at some point. So I not quite sure how we handle that. So, but there's been so much turnover up here on the north end. I think the only two that really, or three, is Jesse with Woodmore, Palmer Lake, and myself. And I don't think anybody else has a clue of what that means. So.
Okay, so I apologize if I misunderstood. So the Upper Monument, we were currently planning to take it out of the 208 plan because I thought that you guys were no longer functioning. So I think if there's a chance that you're going to function, we should leave it in the 208 plan. And you guys should define also what your service area, or loosely calling it service area, what that is.
Well, and I think that's very easy to do. Basically, it's everything north of the boundary of Colorado Springs. So
The city of Colorado Springs?
yeah, which is Northgate-ish Boulevard. Be what, Northgate, and then yeah, if you basically just drew a straight line east and west of Northgate.
So could we say everything in the Fountain Creek watershed north of Northgate Boulevard to the county line?
Yeah. And again, Roy, help me out here. This lift station that is a possibility will in turn be a private lift station for a piece of property. And I don't know if we review those or not, or all the ones I've ever done have been public. This one will be a private lift station.
Yeah, well, I think, again, the deciding factor would be, does it have an impact on water quality?
Through Monument Sanitation,
Right.
because that's
It
who they're
kinda-
going to tie into.
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of Fort Carson, that's always been a member of the Lower Fountain and has participated, but yet, they don't have a state discharge permit. They deal directly with EPA, and so there's a lot of differences. And of course, the federal government does what they want, kind of like a private owner. Well, not really, but so yeah, I mean, I would think if there's a way that you can force it, you'd want to review it.
Yeah. Oh, we will. It will be reviewed, if
Mm-hmm.
anything, at a minimum by the district and our engineers.
Right.
And if it is a regulation 22 application in the county, it has to come through our PPACG's review process. So if your WQMA is part of that, then we would be required to send it to you as well.
I'm understanding this correctly, and anything that falls in the lower fountain would actually be looked at through the lower fountain group. Anything outside of that, it's not gonna go through lower fountain, it's gonna go straight to the SARC and then WQMC. Correct?
Lower Fountain, and then now Upper Monument is going to be there too. it
So like
sounds like.
technically, me and Kevin are doing something, we don't need to go through the lower fountain because we don't participate in that, we just go straight to the SARC.
Right. Yeah, and there's a sentence in here somewhere that, or there was a sentence that said, previously said Cherokee goes to Lower Fountain, and we had the other conversation and took that out. So you guys are just going to Sark, unless you want to go to Lower Fountain, but you had told me you didn't want to.
We're not in that watershed.
Yeah.
So, with all due respect to Mark, I'm opposed to the idea of naming naming in the 208 plan an association that doesn't yet exist and hasn't been active. I mean, just creating an association because we know that one project is coming up, to me doesn't seem like a stable long-term solution. If this association had met frequently or had met regularly or had or still existed and is planning to review all applications and the folks that are members of it all give a thumbs up that they want to do that, then sure, it can be included. But right now we have one person saying, yeah, sure, it's a nice idea for this one project that we know is coming up. And we're all very busy, and this is the kind of thing that can get forgotten about pretty quickly. You have to set up a whole new association with partners that are not on the call.
The association already exists, just we haven't met anytime soon in the recent past. It's been 3 or 4 years, so it does exist. It has existed and everything, but the reason we haven't met or anything is because we've had nothing to review. So
If my memory serves, in the last few years, we have had some projects that would have fallen into the jurisdiction that you discussed. And again, it wasn't in the plan to forward it to that committee. But all of these associations need to have a much better defined geographic area so that when these projects come through, they go to your review. I mean, there was the semi-private wastewater treatment plant upgrades that we just spent 3 or 4 meetings talking about. That would have fallen into this organization's review if its boundaries were strictly defined.
I'll let Mark speak to that, but I think some of the problem there is because our 208 plan was not clear, and this is what we're trying to fix. Whoever probably didn't know who it needed to go to, because when you read, there's no way you would have known from reading the 208 plan. So I'll just leave it at that, but it's really up to you guys. It does exist, but how we move forward with it, this is our pivotal moment to decide.
and I can agree with that, at some point it's got to go through some sort of review process, be it the SARC or the water quality, and just to have an organization to say, yes, we're going to move it along to so and so, then they have to review it. But like I said, again, there's been so much turnover and change on this north end, and everybody thinking that there would be no more growth that needed a lift station. Why keep it around? When we had that conversation here a couple months ago, so I am good with either way. But yeah, just have an organization that just to have one, no, I disagree with that. So
One more point, and then I'll consider my points made. Both Upper Monument and Lower Fountain organization need to have some objectives in mind. Are you looking to make specific changes to design? Do you want to impose requirements like having more emergency storage and a lift station, or greater water quality requirements than the state requires? Or are you there as more of a planning role to try and eliminate redundant infrastructure? And if one development is trying to build a 5-mile force main to one wastewater plant, instead force them to build maybe a shorter force main to a closer facility. Basically, my point is have some of those goals in mind. So yeah, you get to review these documents, but you're not just saying yes to everything that SARC already reviewed. So just, and if you can take that advice or you can leave it, I'm just one vote.
Somewhere in the world, it is defined what a water quality management agency's is supposed to, what their role is supposed to fulfill. I can try to dig that up and send it out to you, Mark, and Jonathan as well. And you guys can have those discussions of as far as what your role is. It's not very clearly defined. So there's a lot of leeway, but I think it's, from what I've read, it's more of the latter, the planning role. But not that I'm a voting member, but it is something that needs to be defined. It's come up in discussion a lot. Okay, so for moving forward, are we leaving Upper Monument in the 208 plan instead of taking it out?
If we're going to leave them in, I would like at least a written approval from all of the members that they want to go forward with Upper Monument and want to define its boundaries.
and I'm all in favor of disbanding it and at least making sure that somebody up here knows and is on the SARC committee or part of that process for that review. And I know I've been on the SARC, but when you guys change the meeting time for that, it makes it difficult for me because I get a board meeting during that same time. But I think if something's going on in the northern part up here that committee used to do, I think I think that would be better instead of, having a committee that reports to a committee that reports to a committee. I think it needs to be streamlined.
So the Upper Monument Association exists. It's a legal entity. And I'm sure there's processes in place to dissolve that. But it seems to me if you're going to have a Water Quality Management Association on the lower, we should have one on the Upper Monument. Would it be this committee's responsibility to reach out and reestablish membership to that association?
It's up to Upper Monument to handle themselves. That's not PPACG's role, but it is our role in terms of the 208 plan to acknowledge authority to the WQMAs. So we have to have it in the 208 plan. That's part of establishing their authority.
Well, I mean, I know it's been at least 4 years since they have not been available for review. I just don't know what the next steps would be. It just seems to me that because of the growth or the lack thereof, there might be a lift station here or there based off of or just even a lift station replacement is going to be required to be reviewed, that it just might automatically just need to go to the SARC, and we just, I don't know. We don't have the authority to dissolve that committee, but maybe we just leave them out of the 208.
I kind of think it might be easier if they didn't exist and just keep everything under one roof. So I don't know, like he said, committee to this committee, committee to this committee. Eventually it's going to get to the SARC in this one anyway, but to hang around for something that once every 4 years something happens, I don't know if it's worthwhile.
If they had a Christmas party, it would give them a reason to exist.
You'll be our first guest speaker to that, Roy.
So it kind of sounds like it's up to you, Mark, if you guys want to exist. Or, you know, like you said, you pointed out basically two options. Either you exist as a WQMA, or we make sure people from up in your northern area are on the SARC.
I would agree with the second part of that one.
Okay, so move forward with taking it out of the 208 plan, keep you engaged in the SARC.
Absolutely.
Okay. Good.
And make sure if there's more turnover that the next person stays on the SARC.
Well, okay. Yes.
All right. There's only two more things on Roger's list. This one's pretty easy. 27.5, which is on 1, 2, 3. Nine or 10? 11? Up one more.
27.5
there you
is
go.
on page 8.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I have a paper copy, which is not very, yeah. So, Roger suggested that the second sentence, there be amended to continue with, where it says, and it's not in here again because he sent this to me yesterday. The applicant should contact the CDPHE Water Quality Control Division for more information on their review process timing, and payment of fees to initiate their site location application review process per WQCC Regulation 102, and Regulation 102 is governs what those fees are. So that seems like a pretty easy edit. My only thing again is we're not trying to rewrite Reg 22, but up to you guys if you want to include that.
Yeah, like I said, I have no issue. I don't think it's putting any more responsibility on us. It's just kind of more of a guiding sentence for them to understand that there are going to be fees associated with the review process.
Seeing head nods. Okay. We'll add that in unless, oh, go ahead, Connie.
Angie, throughout the document, I thought it was confusing that you've got the acronym CDPHE-WQCD. I've never seen that before. I've always just seen references to CDPHE or WQCD. Are you doing that because of all the other acronyms that might make this all confusing?
I did that because that's what was already in the 208 plan before, and I figured if you guys want it a different way, we can do it a different way. Let me know.
Okay, because in Regulation 22, they only refer to the Water Quality Control Division, approving and making the final decision. They don't use the acronym CDPHE WQCD. And so I thought it was kind of confusing to have that CDPHE dash WQCD. What does everybody else think? You know, does that make it more clear, or can we get rid of the CDPHE dash and just refer to WQCD?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the Water Quality Control Division is the part of CDPHE that regulates wastewater. So I think it doesn't make a difference to me.
I'm gonna imagine that language is in there just so if someone new is looking at it, they know that Water Quality Control Division is part of CDPHE, but any engineering firm worth their salt should probably already know that, so I'm good either way.
Yeah, on page 8, section 27.5, the last sentence just uses the term CDPHE, has final authority. And if we're going to use CDPHE dash WQCD, we ought to be consistent throughout the document.
I wonder if you couldn't somewhere in there, just make a reference that Water Quality Control Division is part of CDPHE and then just refer to it as Water Quality Control Division throughout the rest of the document.
I
I'd
would
agree with
prefer that.
Yeah.
Good suggestion, Wally. Mm-hmm.
It just, I don't even know. Okay. Good with that one? Okay. All right. Last thing from Roger. Okay, like at the end, page 10 of 14. I don't, it's in this paper document. Yeah. So the bullet that says refuse wastewater, they're right there at the very bottom. Refuse wastewater from municipalities, developments, or subdivisions that do not adequately protect water quality. Roger says that this appears to go beyond the authority of most applicants as acting as a designated management and operating agency. But I took this from what DMOAs are supposed to do. So I don't know what you guys want to do about that.
Can we scroll up real quick? What are these bullet points referencing?
This is what applicants must be able to demonstrate.
Oh,
I think it's fine. If anything, maybe it should be more specific, state including pretreatment, or I guess land use control is not the right word, but control over what customers can connect such that the wastewater mix is acceptable to the receiving facility.
Can you say that again?
I could try and write something too, but I want to make sure it matches the document that these came from. But it seems to me like this would be within the jurisdiction of a receiving facility to ensure there's adequate pretreatment regulations being enforced, and that the whatever agency is conveying the wastewater to the facility can refuse connections from industrial users or require them to split their waste streams such that it doesn't make it to the municipal waste stream. So I think that's pretty well summarized in the language that's there, but I appreciate Roger pointing it out.
I think I like the way it's written because again, most wastewater plants, you're gonna have pre-treatment regulations anyway that are gonna control this. And I do think that's overall, that's part of our job in these committees to make sure that, you know, you're not bringing in crap, putting out crap. We want it cleaned up. That's the whole point of this. So if the documents look like it's not gonna be good, I think we have the right to say it's not good.
Yeah, also most like consecutive systems is not the term in wastewater, but most of the contracts say basically if you're if your wastewater is of such poor quality that it's degrading the facility, we can refuse service. And
Okay.
ideally, you would never actually just like shut the valve and refuse service, but that's like a hammer that you can wield as a facility operator if someone's really not complying with pretreatment or other regulations.
So do you like it as written, or do you suggest changing?
I think it's fine as written. If we wanted to make it more specific, probably get a lot longer than some of the other bullets, and it's a pretty niche thing anyway, but it's worth looking at.
I'd leave it the way it is.
I concur.
All right, well, that's all of, any other comments online? I don't see any hands. All right, that's all of Roger's comments, and that's all of the final comments that I received from everyone else. Go ahead, Connie.
I had several other editorial comments. Page 1, first paragraph, second to last sentence. This review helps the Colorado Department of Public Health. You need to add and environment.
Got it, thank you.
And on that page, also on that page, the last long paragraph where it uses the term OWTS. Maybe that's this term is described elsewhere before this page, but I noticed on-site wastewater treatment system was described and then followed by the acronym on page 9. So I think you should describe it on page 1 and maybe remove on-site wastewater treatment systems and just use OWTS on page 9.
Got it.
Okay. And then
Real quick, Connie, can I jump in, Connie, real quick?
sure.
Since we're here, just your previous comment about this review helps the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, Water Quality Control Division. Maybe in those parentheses, that's where you just established WQCD for the rest of the document. Okay.
Good idea. Yeah. And then on the next page, page 2, I noticed you've removed table 27.1. But then on the top of page 3, the first paragraph refers to table 27.1.
Yeah, I saw that yesterday, and so I took that out yesterday, but I'll make sure it's in this this copy that you guys have.
Okay. And also on page 3, where the last paragraph, Lower Fountain Water Quality Management Association focuses, we should add the word on the lower fountain, and then I would add the word creek before watershed.
Yeah, that's also been added in not this version. So it says covers the lower Fountain Creek watershed. You want it to say focuses on? Scroll down just a hair, Tommy. A little more. One more. There you go. Oh, it does say focuses right there. Okay.
Yeah.
So just add on
Yep.
the Lower Fountain Creek.
Got it.
Well, and right there it says not including Pueblo County.
Mhm.
It's some sort of explanation of our coverage.
Part of it. Okay. Any others, Connie?
Yeah. Page 9, the second paragraph, you explain what MPDES stands for. and then you do it again in the first bullet below that. So you could strike National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System there. And then the last bullet says cities, counties, or municipalities. I would take out the word "to." Because they regulate and control. Don't need the word "to" there.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then one thing I noticed the bottom of page 9, and maybe you did this earlier, you started capitalizing applicant, the word applicant, the last line on page 9. And is that something you're doing throughout this document, throughout the 208 plan, or is it just this part?
The applicant is intended to be capitalized. And so I can go through and make sure they all have capitalized if you're seeing some that aren't.
Okay, I just wondered if that was the intent. That's fine. And on the top of page 11, you use the second line, proposed project or facility. That was the first time I saw proposed project or facility. Before, I think it had just been proposed facility. And I believe these are always facilities, but maybe not. So I just wanted to point that out, that was a change. And then page 14, the last line, it says the same subject or project.
So I think because it's not always a new facility, they can be projects on facilities.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was also previously in here, but if you guys want it real specific on that, we can change it.
My 2 cents would be to leave it as proposed project or facility in all references, because you're right, there's a lot of these with the revised review process. A lot of them are just renewing equipment in existing facilities.
Okay. I think just be consistent.
Yep.
And in the future, Angie, it would be helpful if you send it as a Word document so that we could use track changes to propose our suggested changes. And, I printed this and marked up a paper copy, and it'd be easier if I was doing it online.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I just want to note Connie is not a voting member. So if you guys need to tell me if you're good with the things that she's proposing.
I'm good with the proposed changes recommended by Connie with the additional comments by the voting members.
I agree.
I concur.
So unless there's any other comments or changes on this Appendix A, it seems like I have a lot of edits to go back and do. You need to talk to Lower Fountain. So we were thinking of voting and moving this forward, but I'm not sure if you guys want to wait until next month now.
I would suggest, if possible, we wait till next month, because I think Kevin brought up some important points regarding the Lower Fountain Water Quality Management Association needing to, and it'd probably be good for the group anyway to understand the purpose and the scope.
So if you could vote to move it to next month, that'd be good.
I'm looking for a motion to move the approval of the 208 site application, just the Appendix A, or
Yeah.
Appendix A for the next WQMC meeting.
I'll make a motion to postpone anything on the 208 plan until next month.
I second that.
All right, we can move on then.
Great, good, good conversation, good discussion. Next item on the agenda is the Colorado Industrial Pretreatment Coordinators Association Pretreatments Fog 101 Training Series. Is this you as well, Angie?
Yes, so this is the last thing we have here. The SIPCA board, Colorado Industrial Pre-Treatment, they have a long acronym. They sent this to me, just wanted to let you guys know that this training is coming up. It's not just for industrial pretreatments, for everyone who deals with that. So I just want to let you know it's available, and this is in your meeting materials. There's a link for registration if you're interested in learning about fats, oils, and grease treatment, pre-treatment training. So there it is. And that's it.
Great, thank you, Angie. I know, I think we're sending, we have some collection operators that are interested in learning more about that end of the pretreatment process. So we're sending them to this course. So thanks for bringing it to our attention.
Andrew, can you forward that to me? I have some folks interested.
All right, next on the agenda is member entity announcements. Does anybody online have anything they'd like to share regarding their facilities? Hearing none, does anybody in the room have any updates that they'd like to share? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to the meeting schedule. It was in your packet. I don't know if we're looking for just make sure people are aware of the dates. We're not looking at changing anything. So if you are interested in reviewing those upcoming meeting dates, they are in your packet. Are there any other comments from online or in the room? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate your time. Have a good rest of your Wednesday.
Thanks, everybody. For the full one.